The night is quiet, the world outside your window softened by the gentle embrace of darkness. As you settle into your space, allow your mind to drift, slowly, gently, toward a story hidden in the folds of history, one whispered behind closed doors, in offices filled with stacks of classified documents and the hum of computers long before the world even suspected. This is a story not often told, a tale of secret investigations, unexplained lights, and the careful, deliberate attempts of governments to make sense of what they could not fully understand. Tonight, you are invited to step softly into that hidden world, where reality blends with mystery, and every page, every report, carries a weight of both skepticism and wonder. In the years following the Second World War, the world was changing rapidly. Nations were rebuilding, technology was advancing at an unprecedented pace, and a new kind of fear, one born of the unknown, began to settle over the public consciousness. In this atmosphere of uncertainty, strange sightings in the skies became impossible to ignore. People reported unusual shapes, lights moving in ways that defied logic, and phenomena that challenged the very framework of what was considered possible. The United States, in particular, began to pay close attention, and behind the polished facades of official statements, an elaborate network of intelligence and research quietly began to investigate these anomalies. Official documents often downplayed the significance, attributing sightings to weather balloons, optical illusions, or the misinterpretation of conventional aircraft. Yet the consistency of reports and the credibility of some witnesses suggested that there was more than mere imagination at play. Tonight, as you let your breathing slow and your body relax, imagine the quiet offices of the CIA, rooms lined with files marked top secret, and analysts poring over reports from pilots, radar operators, and ordinary citizens alike. Each document tells a story, sometimes mundane, sometimes extraordinary, but always recorded with precision. These were not tales meant for headlines, not stories to stir panic or curiosity among the general public. They were carefully catalogued observations, pieces of a puzzle that few outside the inner circles were allowed to see. Some reports describe shimmering lights moving across the sky with impossible speed, others recount encounters with craft whose shapes and movements defy conventional aerodynamics. And then there are the voices, the words of those who swore they had seen something unexplainable, whose memories were carefully preserved, if not entirely believed by the bureaucrats who received them. There is a calmness to exploring these stories at night, a unique combination of intrigue and safety. Unlike daytime speculation, the quiet of night allows your mind to wander freely, tracing the contours of mystery without pressure or urgency. As you listen, you may notice a delicate tension between what is known and what is merely suggested, between official denials and personal conviction. This tension is precisely what makes these whispered files so compelling. It is not fear they intend to inspire, but curiosity, a gentle, persistent curiosity that draws the mind into contemplation. Historians who have later examined these files note the fascinating duality. Governments often express skepticism, yet they meticulously investigated, suggesting that even within doubt, there was recognition of something worth understanding. Let your imagination drift further into the quiet corridors of these investigations. Picture the early days of radar tracking, of pilots' testimonies recorded in precise detail, of reports that described movements impossible for any known aircraft at the time. These whispers of the sky carry echoes of a world that operates just beyond ordinary perception, a world that touches the edge of reality yet remains elusive. Researchers and journalists who later gained access to declassified files often describe a sense of awe mingled with frustration, awareness of the thoroughness of documentation, yet an acknowledgement that many questions remain unanswered. As you settle deeper into your restful state, consider the gentle paradox of this story. It is at once grounded and mysterious, factual and speculative, historical and timeless. The world you are entering tonight is one where lights flicker on radar screens, memos circulate in quiet offices, and eyewitnesses recount moments that defy simple explanation. It is a story that invites you to linger, to observe, to listen without judgment, and above all, to relax, letting the mysteries of the sky become companions for the night. And so, as the room around you grows stiller, and your body sinks further into comfort, let your mind open to the whispered files of CIA UFO experiments. There is no rush, no need to solve or understand everything at once. Instead, allow the stories to flow gently around you, like a soft current carrying you through shadowed halls, across radar screens, and into the skies above, where the unknown dances just beyond reach. Here, in this quiet, suspended space, curiosity is safe, wonder is welcome, and the night itself becomes a canvas upon which the whispers of the past can softly unfold. The years after the Second World War were a time of both hope and tension. The world had endured immense conflict, yet it was also entering a period of remarkable technological advancement and rapid geopolitical change. Nations were racing to rebuild, and with each new invention or discovery came both excitement and unease. In this fragile landscape, the skies themselves began to draw the attention of the public. Strange lights, unfamiliar shapes, and movements that seemed impossible for any known aircraft sparked wonder and worry alike. It was an era when the very idea of flying objects that defied explanation seemed both thrilling and plausible. A time when the boundaries between imagination and reality were, for some, astonishingly thin. In the United States, the late 1940s and 1950s were marked by post-war optimism shadowed by the looming tension of the Cold War. As nations prepared for the possibility of new conflicts, surveillance and intelligence became paramount. The skies were no longer merely the realm of clouds and stars, they were strategic territory. Any unexplained object in the air could be considered a potential threat. This heightened awareness meant that ordinary citizens reporting unusual aerial phenomena were taken seriously in ways they might not have been in peacetime. Pilot reports, radar readings, and civilian sightings became valuable pieces of data, carefully logged and occasionally investigated by military and intelligence personnel. Yet, alongside the scrutiny, the stories often seemed surreal, blending elements of science, psychology, and the unknown. One of the earliest sparks of public fascination came in June 1947, when a private pilot, Kenneth Arnold, described seeing 9 unusual objects flying near Mount Rainier, Washington. His description of them skipping across the sky captured imaginations worldwide, and for the first time, the term flying saucer entered common conversation. Newspapers eagerly reported sightings, combining factual accounts with speculation and sensationalism. At the same time, the famous Roswell incident later that year added layers of mystery and controversy. While official explanations suggested a downed weather balloon, the persistence of eyewitness accounts, coupled with later declassified reports, ensured that the event became an enduring emblem of unexplained aerial phenomena. As you listen and allow your breathing to slow, imagine the cultural atmosphere of that time. Families gathered around radios, listening to news reports of lights in the sky. Children gazed upward in curiosity, while adults debated rational explanations. Science and superstition coexisted uneasily, and popular culture began to absorb these emerging stories. Movies, comic books, and novels of the era reflected the fascination with the unknown, often portraying extraterrestrial visitors, mysterious crafts, and secret government experiments. This interplay between media and public perception both fueled curiosity and shaped expectations, reinforcing the idea that some mysteries were worth watching, worth documenting, and worth contemplating. In this climate of fear, fascination, and rapid technological change, the CIA and other intelligence agencies found themselves in a unique position. While publicly, many sightings were downplayed, internal investigations were far more detailed. Officials recognized that even a small anomaly in the skies could have implications for national security. Yet they also had to contend with the extraordinary nature of the reports themselves. Patterns that did not conform to known aircraft capabilities, descriptions of lights moving with impossible speed or sudden direction changes, and multiple independent witnesses who seemed reliable and credible. Researchers and historians who have since studied the declassified files note the careful balance maintained by intelligence agencies. Official reports often express skepticism, yet records show meticulous data collection and analysis, suggesting that the unexplained was taken seriously even if it could not always be confirmed. The late 1940s and 1950s were also a time when psychology began to intersect with unexplained phenomena. Experts explored how perception, stress, and expectation could shape experiences of the unknown. Were some sightings the result of optical illusions, fatigue, or misinterpreted lights? Perhaps, yet even with these explanations, a subset of reports remained resistant to conventional interpretation. This nuanced perspective is what makes the era so compelling to revisit at night, when the mind is relaxed and more receptive to subtle intrigue. Here, the balance between fact and mystery is delicate, inviting the listener to explore without fear, to observe without needing immediate answers, and to drift gently through a world that blends history, science, and wonder. As you settle deeper into your comfortable space, picture yourself tracing the paths of these early sightings across the night sky. Imagine the nervous excitement of pilots reporting strange objects, the quiet determination of analysts reviewing radar logs, and the wonder of ordinary people who looked upward and glimpsed something extraordinary. Even as skepticism and rational explanations circulated, the fascination endured, quietly embedding itself into both culture and consciousness. It is within this layered, delicate tapestry that the story of CIA involvement in UFO research truly begins. A narrative of careful observation, persistent curiosity, and a world that, even today, holds more questions than answers. Tonight, as your breathing continues to slow and your mind drifts, allow this vision of the post-war era to unfold gently. Imagine the unknown lights that danced in the skies, the documents filed and hidden away, and the people who witnessed the extraordinary yet had to keep it secret. It is here, in this calm, suspended space, that history and mystery intertwine, preparing you to step further into the whispered files of CIA UFO experiments. Every moment you relax into this story brings you closer to the hidden world that quietly observed the skies while the world outside carried on, unaware of the secrets hovering just above. In the quiet corridors of government, behind doors that few could enter and with files marked in stark letters as top secret, the story of UFOs took on a very different tone. While the public heard speculation and occasional dismissals, the reality within the intelligence community was far more meticulous. By the late 1940s and early 1950s, the CIA, along with branches of the military, had begun to take note of reports that defied conventional explanation. At first, these were seen primarily as matters of national security. Any object moving in the sky with unknown speed, trajectory, or origin could not simply be ignored, especially in a world still adjusting to the aftershocks of global conflict and the onset of the Cold War. What began as a cautious interest soon became formalized investigations, programs, and reports, some of which would remain classified for decades. Project Blue Book, one of the more well-known programs, has often been mentioned in popular accounts, yet its role was only one facet of a broader intelligence effort. Officially, Project Blue Book aimed to catalog sightings, determine if they posed threats, and analyze data scientifically. Internally, however, the CIA's interest extended to more secretive avenues. Memos and declassified documents reveal the creation of special units tasked with evaluating extraordinary cases, some so perplexing that analysts struggled to fit them within the frameworks of known physics or aviation. Often, reports described lights moving at incredible speed, silent crafts that defied radar detection, or even encounters that suggested advanced technologies far beyond contemporary understanding. Within the intelligence apparatus, these anomalies were treated with a combination of skepticism and meticulous attention. The documents do not scream of panic. They show methodical observation, cautious interpretation, and the persistent hope that the truth could be uncovered. As you let your mind relax into this story, Picture the analysts at their desks, surrounded by stacks of reports, radar printouts, and photographs of mysterious aerial phenomena. Some reports came from commercial pilots, whose flight logs described brief encounters with glowing objects that seemed to accelerate instantaneously. Others came from military personnel operating radar stations, who recorded anomalies that could not be explained by weather, birds, or conventional aircraft. Occasionally, these accounts were corroborated by multiple sources, creating a tapestry of unexplained activity that intrigued, puzzled, and sometimes unsettled even the most experienced officers. Researchers who later studied these files noted the extraordinary care with which observations were documented, even in cases that ultimately remained inconclusive. It is this combination of precision and ambiguity that gives the story its quiet power, a sense that behind every line, there is a question still waiting to be answered. Among the more secretive programs rumored to exist were those known in later decades as MJ-12 or Majestic 12. While some historians caution that definitive evidence is scarce, declassified memos and investigative journalism suggest that the CIA and affiliated agencies were experimenting with advanced methods of observation and data collection. These included the use of high-altitude surveillance, sophisticated radar systems, and aerial photography capable of capturing fast-moving phenomena. Analysts examined patterns in sightings, seeking consistency and meaning in a sea of anecdotal reports. Some pursued the notion that foreign powers might be testing unknown aircraft, while others considered the possibility that the phenomena could be extraterrestrial or otherwise beyond human comprehension. Even when official conclusions lean toward conventional explanations, the persistence of unexplained anomalies ensured continued attention and careful documentation. The human element of these investigations was equally significant. CIA analysts and military officers were trained to be skeptical, yet they could not ignore the stories of credible witnesses. There are records of pilots describing objects that maneuvered in ways impossible for any aircraft known at the time, or of radar operators noting anomalies that appeared on multiple systems simultaneously. In some cases, multiple independent witnesses confirmed the same event, enhancing the credibility of the reports. Historians have pointed out that the meticulous nature of record-keeping, combined with the reluctance to make definitive claims publicly, created a rich archive that modern researchers continue to explore. Even now, decades later, the juxtaposition of official skepticism and persistent observation forms the core of the mystery, offering a calm yet compelling narrative for those willing to listen and consider the possibilities. Consider, for a moment, the quiet intensity of those who worked behind the scenes. They were not sensationalists seeking headlines, but individuals committed to understanding anomalies in the skies. Their work was often methodical, involving repeated observations, comparisons to known flight data, and consultations with experts across disciplines. Some analysts speculated on the physical characteristics of the objects, noting shapes that ranged from disks and spheres to more unconventional geometries. Others studied trajectories, acceleration patterns, and the electromagnetic disturbances reported during certain sightings. Over time, these internal reports became a vast library of observations, some mundane, some extraordinary, all meticulously catalogued. And yet, even with these layers of investigation, the files often conveyed uncertainty. Officially, many cases were attributed to misidentified aircraft, meteorological events, or optical illusions. But internally, analysts were sometimes forced to admit that conventional explanations fell short. Radar anomalies could not always be replicated, eyewitness descriptions frequently defied logical trajectories, and certain phenomena remained entirely inexplicable. Researchers emphasize that it is precisely this interplay between careful documentation and unresolved mystery that continues to fascinate those who explore these whispered files today. For a listener, the calm unfolding of these uncertainties can be comforting, an acknowledgement that some questions persist, not because of oversight, but because the phenomena themselves challenge the limits of human understanding. Imagine, now, that you are moving through these offices silently, leafing through reports of lights that shimmered against the night sky, of pilots who observed objects accelerating at impossible speeds, and of radar blips that appeared and vanished without cause. There is a serenity to this exploration, a measured curiosity that encourages observation without alarm. The CIA's role in collecting, analyzing, and cataloging these events reveals both the diligence of human inquiry and the persistent allure of the unknown. It is a reminder that the act of investigation itself can be as captivating as any definitive answer. As you continue to drift gently, the outlines of these experiments and reports begin to form a quiet rhythm: observation, documentation, analysis, and reflection. There is a calm certainty in the knowledge that, while not all mysteries were solved, they were approached with seriousness and respect. This is a world where the extraordinary is recorded with care, where skepticism and wonder coexist, and where the skies hold secrets that invite both contemplation and serenity. The whispered files of CIA UFO experiments beckon you further, guiding your mind along a path that is both historical and mysterious, inviting you to continue this gentle exploration into the unknown. As we move deeper into the story, it is time to meet the people who witnessed the extraordinary firsthand. The whispered files of the CIA are filled not only with radar readings and memos but also with accounts from ordinary men and women, pilots, military personnel, and even children who saw lights in the sky or objects that simply could not be explained. Each story carries its own quiet tension, a mixture of wonder, fear, and disbelief. What makes these accounts compelling is not just their strangeness but the sincerity with which they were reported, and the consistency with which some phenomena appeared across time and space. Tonight, you are invited to listen, not to judge, but to observe the human experience of the unknown. Consider the pilots, for example, who shared the sky with objects that moved in ways no conventional aircraft could. Some described sudden bursts of speed, stops and starts that defied the laws of physics, and maneuvers that would have been impossible for even the most advanced jets of the time. These accounts were meticulously logged and sometimes corroborated by multiple crew members or by radar operators who observed the same event from the ground. One pilot might have reported a disc-shaped object hovering silently over a desert landscape, only to witness it vanish in an instant without any discernible propulsion system. Another might have recounted lights moving in perfect synchronization, as if guided by intelligence beyond human design. For those recording the reports, these were data points. For the witnesses, they were unforgettable experiences, moments that lingered in memory long after the sightings themselves. Military personnel, particularly radar operators and officers stationed at strategic locations, also contributed extensively to the files. They described blips appearing on screens, sometimes moving at speeds far exceeding known aircraft, or suddenly vanishing without explanation. In some cases, multiple radar stations recorded the same anomaly simultaneously, offering a rare convergence of independent verification. The people monitoring these instruments were trained to detect errors and rule out interference, yet these blips persisted, leaving analysts with puzzles that defied easy resolution. The careful logs of these events reveal a tension between procedural rigor and the strange reality unfolding before their eyes, a tension that carries a quiet, almost hypnotic intrigue. Even civilian witnesses provided stories that entered the official records, demonstrating that encounters with the unknown were not limited to the military or scientific elite. Families in rural areas reported bright lights hovering silently over fields, sometimes moving in formation, other times darting across the sky at incredible speeds. Children, with their heightened curiosity and unfiltered observations, occasionally noticed details that adults overlooked: shapes, colors, or movements that suggested intentionality or design. Teachers, engineers, and other professionals submitted reports that were surprisingly consistent in describing features that challenged conventional explanation. While some sightings could be dismissed as reflections, meteorological phenomena, or aircraft misidentifications, a subset of reports remained persistent, precise, and difficult to ignore. Psychologists and researchers studying these accounts later noted that human perception is complex and influenced by expectation, stress, and environmental factors. Yet even with these considerations, there remained a portion of sightings that were corroborated by multiple sources, often spanning geographical distances and different conditions. This interplay between perception and external validation adds a rich texture to the files, creating a narrative that is both grounded and mysterious. It reminds the listener that while some experiences may be subjective, others carry weight in documentation and persistence, forming a bridge between personal experience and public record. It is also important to consider the emotional and psychological impact on the witnesses themselves. Pilots who reported strange objects often struggled with disbelief and concern over professional credibility. Military personnel sometimes faced skepticism from superiors when submitting unusual reports. Civilian witnesses might have feared ridicule from neighbors or family. Despite this, many persisted, providing detailed accounts that would later find their way into intelligence archives. There is a quiet heroism in this persistence, the courage to report what was seen even when it contradicted conventional understanding, and to participate in a process that valued observation over sensationalism. Some of the most compelling accounts involve multiple witnesses experiencing the same phenomenon. These cases provide a sense of collective observation that transcends individual perception. Imagine a group of pilots observing a formation of lights moving in perfect synchronization across the night sky, while radar stations on the ground simultaneously record objects traveling at impossible speeds. Reports like these, often corroborated by documentation and careful analysis, remain some of the most intriguing entries in the whispered files. They hint at patterns that are difficult to attribute solely to error, misperception, or natural phenomena. Instead, they invite contemplation, a quiet wonder at the possibility of something truly extraordinary occurring beyond the reach of conventional explanation. Researchers and historians who have later examined these files emphasize the balance between credibility and mystery. The accounts are taken seriously, often logged with exacting detail, yet there is an acknowledgement that understanding remains incomplete. Each sighting is a reminder of the limits of perception and the complexity of the natural world. For a listener resting in the calm of night, these stories offer both intrigue and comfort, a gentle journey through experiences that are extraordinary yet grounded in human observation. The focus is not fear but curiosity, not alarm but reflection, allowing the mind to wander along the paths these witnesses once traced in the skies above. As you continue to relax, picture yourself stepping quietly into these experiences. Hear the descriptions of shimmering lights, watch the movements of objects that seem to defy gravity, and feel the awe of those who observed them firsthand. Sense the meticulous recording of details, the time, location, speed, and trajectory noted carefully by professionals trained to detect anomalies. In this gentle contemplation, the mysteries become companions for the night, each account a soft echo of human curiosity and wonder. In this section of the Whispered Files, the human element shines most clearly. It is through these stories, whether from pilots, radar operators, or ordinary civilians, that the phenomenon becomes personal, relatable, and quietly mesmerizing. The intelligence and documentation may frame the observations, but it is the lived experience of witnesses that lends the narrative depth, emotion, and a sense of immediacy. As your mind drifts further into the calm embrace of these accounts, allow yourself to be carried gently through the night sky, alongside those who saw, recorded, and marveled at the unknown. The mysteries are real, the observations sincere, and the journey into the unknown is as soothing as it is intriguing, preparing you for the next layers of government and media involvement that followed these extraordinary experiences. Even as eyewitness accounts accumulated, a parallel story unfolded behind the scenes, one of careful management, selective disclosure, and subtle persuasion. Governments were tasked with the delicate balance of acknowledging the unknown while maintaining public calm. The United States, in particular, faced the dual pressures of national security and societal stability. Officials recognized that unexplained aerial phenomena, if publicized without context, could ignite fear or even hysteria. Yet ignoring them entirely was not an option. The potential implications for defense and technological advantage were too significant. Thus, a complex dance emerged. Observations were cataloged, reports analyzed, and information was filtered through layers of secrecy before ever reaching public awareness. The mainstream media played an equally influential role in shaping the public's perception of UFOs. Newspapers and radio broadcasts reported sightings, often blending factual accounts with speculation or sensationalism. Headlines might describe flying saucers or mysterious lights, but the tone varied widely from credible reporting to ridicule. In some cases, journalists echoed official denials, while in others, they amplified the mystery, feeding the public imagination. Historians note that this interplay created a feedback loop. Government caution influenced reporting, which in turn shaped public perception, and that perception prompted further scrutiny by intelligence agencies. In this way, secrecy and storytelling coexisted, creating an atmosphere in which curiosity could flourish even as skepticism was encouraged. Behind the closed doors of intelligence offices, the situation was more nuanced. Internal CIA memos and declassified documents reveal a pattern of cautious but persistent investigation. Analysts were trained to approach reports with rigor, verifying every detail and consulting multiple sources. In many cases, official conclusions emphasized natural explanations, whether balloons, astronomical phenomena, or optical illusions, but the investigation itself continued. This careful documentation illustrates a remarkable tension. Publicly, the narrative was controlled and often dismissive, yet internally, the phenomenon was treated with seriousness and care. Some reports were so perplexing that analysts noted them as unexplained, preserving the mystery without creating panic. Whistleblowers and later leaks added further layers to the story. Decades after the initial investigations, individuals with first-hand knowledge of classified programs came forward, describing encounters, radar anomalies, and internal debates that the public had never known about. These revelations often contrasted sharply with official statements at the time, showing that the line between skepticism and acknowledgement was not always clearly drawn. Researchers have highlighted that the discrepancies do not indicate deception alone. Rather, they reflect the complex challenges of managing sensitive information while protecting national security. This careful balance, combined with later transparency through declassified files, creates a narrative that is both mysterious and credible, inviting quiet reflection rather than alarm. It is also worth noting the international dimension. Other nations, particularly those engaged in Cold War surveillance, were observing the skies and reporting their own unexplained phenomena. While much of the focus remains on the U.S. experience, historians emphasize that the CIA and allied intelligence agencies were aware of foreign sightings and sometimes compared notes across borders. This global context added pressure to understand, document, and sometimes downplay phenomena that might have had military significance. In this sense, secrecy was not merely about mystique, it was a strategic choice, rooted in the realities of a tense geopolitical era. From a psychological perspective, the interaction between government, media, and public perception is fascinating. Officials had to weigh credibility against curiosity, skepticism against potential threat. Meanwhile, the media shaped the collective imagination, sometimes trivializing events, sometimes magnifying them. Civilians, pilots, and military personnel were caught in this interplay, their observations validated by analysis but constrained by secrecy. For a listener in the quiet of night, understanding this tension adds richness to the narrative, highlighting that UFOs were never simply objects in the sky. They were also cultural symbols, psychological catalysts, and agents in a subtle drama of information management. Some particularly compelling examples illustrate this delicate balance. In certain high-profile cases, multiple witnesses reported lights or objects that could not be identified. Internal memoranda often documented the event with precision, noting time, location, and environmental conditions. Analysts debated potential explanations, sometimes consulting experts in physics, aviation, or meteorology. Official statements to the public, however, might attribute the sighting to natural causes or human error. The contrast between detailed internal analysis and cautious public messaging underscores the careful choreography of information, a quiet reassurance to the public that the world remained under control while analysts quietly confronted the unknown. The calm beauty of this story lies in its restraint. Unlike sensationalized accounts that provoke anxiety or excitement, the whispered files reveal measured observation, thoughtful analysis, and the acknowledgement that not all questions could be answered immediately. For the listener, this creates a gentle rhythm. Reports accumulate, evidence is examined, conclusions are tentative, and mystery endures. There is a quiet reverence in this approach, an understanding that the unknown is neither frightening nor trivial, but something to observe patiently, record carefully, and contemplate thoughtfully. As your breathing continues to slow, imagine the layered world of government offices, media bureaus, and public perception intertwining like threads in a delicate tapestry. Picture analysts reviewing radar data late at night, journalists writing stories with both curiosity and caution, and civilians quietly noting what they observed without fully knowing whether anyone would believe them. The tension between disclosure and secrecy is not harsh or alarming. It is measured, precise, and quietly compelling, a rhythm that matches the gentle cadence of this bedtime journey. By observing this careful management of information, you are invited to reflect on the human response to mystery and uncertainty. Governments act with caution, the media interprets with narrative, and citizens watch the skies with curiosity. All of these forces intersect, creating a world in which the unexplained can persist without panic, in which wonder can coexist with rationality, and in which the whispered files of CIA UFO investigations remain a source of quiet fascination, waiting to be explored more deeply in the chapters ahead. Even as official reports and eyewitness accounts accumulated, a quiet current of speculation and contemplation began to flow alongside them, an exploration of possibilities that ventured beyond conventional science. This is not a tale of wild imagination or sensational claims, but of careful curiosity. Analysts, historians, and researchers alike began to wonder, if conventional explanations could not account for certain observations, what might? What if some phenomena were not the product of earthly technology, and what if our understanding of physics and perception was not yet complete? These questions open the door to a range of theories, some grounded in science, others touching on the edges of the paranormal, yet all treated with a thoughtful curiosity that invites the mind to wander gently. One category of alternative explanation considers advanced foreign technology. During the Cold War, both the United States and the Soviet Union were developing aircraft and experimental devices at speeds and altitudes that could challenge observation. It is plausible, researchers note, that some sightings were encounters with cutting-edge experimental craft, prototypes not publicly known, or high-altitude reconnaissance equipment. Analysts documented these possibilities carefully, often comparing unusual flight characteristics to known experimental programs. Even today, declassified documents sometimes suggest uncertainty about whether certain anomalous observations might have been terrestrial in origin, highlighting the fine line between rational deduction and unexplained mystery. Other theorists suggest interdimensional phenomena, events that may not originate within our observable reality but intersect with it briefly. While this idea may sound speculative, it is discussed in serious literature and sometimes referenced in CIA documents and investigative notes as a possibility worth consideration. Observers noted objects appearing and disappearing in ways that could not be explained by conventional movement or performing maneuvers that violated known principles of physics. Scientists, philosophers, and psychologists have speculated on whether these could represent temporary crossings from parallel realities or glimpses into layers of existence not fully perceivable to humans. The idea is not presented as fact, but as an invitation to consider that the universe may be more complex than we understand, and that unexplained aerial phenomena could offer tantalizing clues. Then there are consciousness-based interpretations, a subtle but intriguing line of thought. Some psychologists and parapsychologists suggest that human perception itself may interact with these phenomena in ways not yet fully understood. Could the mind, under certain conditions, perceive objects or energies that normally elude detection? Could some reports represent an intersection of observation and environmental energy, a delicate dialogue between awareness and the unknown? These theories are often framed cautiously, emphasizing that anomalies recorded by multiple witnesses cannot be entirely reduced to perception, but that consciousness may play a role in shaping the phenomena or at least the experience of them. For a listener at night, this idea gently encourages reflection rather than fear, blending wonder with contemplation of the human mind itself. Patterns in sightings also fuel the curiosity of researchers. Certain shapes, movements, and behaviors recur across decades, continents, and cultures. Spherical lights, disc-shaped craft, and objects executing sudden acceleration or instantaneous stops appear repeatedly in reports, suggesting more than coincidence. Analysts and historians note that these consistencies may point to a common source, whether technological, natural, or otherwise. The recurrence of these patterns adds a layer of intrigue. Something is being observed that defies ordinary explanation, yet the observations maintain an internal coherence, quietly hinting at structure within the mystery. Physical traces, when they appear, add another dimension to these alternative theories. In some cases, witnesses reported objects leaving impressions on the ground, interfering with electrical systems, or generating unusual radiation readings. While the CIA and other intelligence agencies sometimes documented these anomalies with caution, the data suggest that the interactions between UFOs and the physical world could be complex and significant. Researchers who study these events today highlight that such evidence is rare but compelling, encouraging a calm exploration of possibilities without sensationalism. Each report is a subtle invitation to observe patterns, notice details, and consider the limitations of current scientific understanding. The beauty of exploring these alternative theories lies in the balance they maintain between mystery and calm reflection. They do not demand belief or disbelief. They invite consideration, allowing the mind to drift gently across possibilities. Some of these possibilities are purely terrestrial, some hint at dimensions beyond our ordinary perception, and some challenge our understanding of consciousness itself. This is a space where curiosity thrives without anxiety, where wonder and skepticism coexist, and where the quiet act of contemplation is as important as observation itself. Cultural influences further shaped how alternative theories were discussed and explored. Films, literature, and television began to incorporate ideas of alien visitors, interdimensional travel, and mysterious technology, often inspired by the very reports and observations collected by the CIA. Historians note that fiction and investigation were not entirely separate. The public imagination fed curiosity, and curiosity sometimes guided official consideration of unconventional possibilities. This interplay between culture and analysis allowed alternative theories to flourish, not as sensational distractions, but as lenses through which to explore phenomena that resisted simple explanation. As you continue to relax into the calm rhythm of this narrative, imagine gently drifting through a sky illuminated by shimmering lights. Picture objects moving in ways that defy gravity, forms shifting subtly as they hover or accelerate. Consider the possibility that these anomalies could be terrestrial, extraterrestrial, interdimensional, or even a dialogue between perception and phenomenon. Each notion is offered quietly, without alarm, and invites the mind to explore a vast canvas of wonder. The alternative theories, while diverse, share a common quality. They honor the mystery, respect the data, and allow imagination to coexist with observation. In this space, the unknown becomes a companion rather than a source of fear. Each report, each pattern, each carefully documented anomaly adds a brushstroke to a vast, subtle canvas. A landscape in which curiosity, patience, and reflection coexist. For the listener resting in the quiet of night, these contemplations are comforting as much as they are intriguing. They allow your mind to wander gently, to consider what might exist beyond the limits of ordinary perception, and to embrace the quiet thrill of discovery without urgency or alarm. And so, as the night deepens, the mind can float amid possibilities. The extraordinary movements, the shapes, the patterns, and the whispers of intelligence reports are all part of a calm exploration of the unknown. Here, mystery and contemplation exist in perfect balance. You are not expected to solve the puzzle. You are invited to observe, reflect, and rest in the gentle knowledge that some questions are meant to linger, quietly encouraging the mind to wander through the skies, across time, and into the realms of wonder that extend beyond what is immediately known. This is a space where curiosity thrives without anxiety, where wonder and skepticism coexist, and where the quiet act of contemplation is as important as observation itself. Cultural influences further shaped how alternative theories were discussed and explored. Films, literature, and television began to incorporate ideas of alien visitors, interdimensional travel, and mysterious technology, often inspired by the very reports and observations collected by the CIA. Historians note that fiction and investigation were not entirely separate. The public imagination fed curiosity, and curiosity sometimes guided official consideration of unconventional possibilities. This interplay between culture and analysis allowed alternative theories to flourish, not as sensational distractions, but as lenses through which to explore phenomena that resisted simple explanation. As you continue to relax into the calm rhythm of this narrative, imagine gently drifting through a sky illuminated by shimmering lights. Picture objects moving in ways that defy gravity, forms shifting subtly as they hover or accelerate. Consider the possibility that these anomalies could be terrestrial, extraterrestrial, interdimensional, or even a dialogue between perception and phenomenon. Each notion is offered quietly, without alarm, and invites the mind to explore a vast canvas of wonder. The alternative theories, while diverse, share a common quality. They honor the mystery, respect the data, and allow imagination to coexist with observation. In this space, the unknown becomes a companion rather than a source of fear. Each report, each pattern, each carefully documented anomaly adds a brushstroke to a vast, subtle canvas. A landscape in which curiosity, patience, and reflection coexist. For the listener resting in the quiet of night, these contemplations are comforting as much as they are intriguing. They allow your mind to wander gently, to consider what might exist beyond the limits of ordinary perception, and to embrace the quiet thrill of discovery without urgency or alarm. And so, as the night deepens, the mind can float amid possibilities. The extraordinary movements, the shapes, the patterns, and the whispers of intelligence reports are all part of a calm exploration of the unknown. Here, mystery and contemplation exist in perfect balance. You are not expected to solve the puzzle. You are invited to observe, reflect, and rest in the gentle knowledge that some questions are meant to linger, quietly encouraging the mind to wander through the skies, across time, and into the realms of wonder that extend beyond what is immediately known. As the decades passed, the whispered files of the CIA and other intelligence agencies began to emerge from the shadows, gradually entering public awareness through declassified documents, investigative journalism, and academic study. Modern investigations have taken the original observations, radar reports, and witness testimonies and revisited them with contemporary tools, scientific methods, and broader context. What is remarkable is not only the persistence of unexplained phenomena but also the meticulous documentation that continues to lend credibility to these observations. For the listener resting in the quiet of night, this exploration bridges history and the present, offering a serene journey through both the known and the unknown. The post-Cold War era ushered in new transparency. Declassified CIA documents revealed the breadth and depth of early investigations, including Project Blue Book, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, ADIP, and various internal memos detailing anomalous sightings. Researchers studying these files emphasized the care with which data was collected, the rigorous attention to cross-referencing witness accounts, and the analytical methods used to evaluate each report. While many cases were ultimately attributed to conventional causes, a significant number remained unexplained, resisting reduction to weather phenomena, aircraft, or misperception. For a listener in a calm, reflective state, this persistence of mystery reinforces both the credibility of the files and the allure of what remains unknown. Modern technology has added a new dimension to the study of UFOs. High-resolution satellites, advanced radar systems, and infrared sensors provide unprecedented observational capability. Cases from recent decades, such as encounters by military pilots with objects displaying unusual acceleration, trajectory, and maneuverability, echo patterns first documented in the mid-20th century. What makes these observations compelling is the consistency across time, geography, and context. Witnesses continue to report phenomena that defy conventional explanation, and contemporary recordings, video, radar, and sensor data allow researchers to analyze them with scientific rigor. Historians note that this continuity suggests the phenomenon is persistent, not merely anecdotal or a product of imagination. Eyewitness testimony remains central to understanding these encounters. Modern investigations prioritize the careful collection of first-hand accounts, often corroborated by multiple witnesses and supplemented by objective data. Pilots, radar operators, and civilian observers continue to provide detailed narratives of encounters with unidentified aerial objects. Researchers emphasize the credibility of these witnesses, who are trained observers familiar with conventional aircraft and atmospheric phenomena. Their accounts often include precise descriptions of shape, size, speed, and behavior, adding layers of detail that enhance both the scientific and historical value of the files. For listeners, this creates a calm yet compelling tapestry of human observation, curiosity, and experience. Academic and scientific communities have increasingly engaged with the topic, analyzing both historical and contemporary reports. Some researchers focus on atmospheric and physical explanations, investigating natural phenomena, electromagnetic effects, and atmospheric optics. Others explore the potential for advanced technology, considering whether observed objects could represent experimental aircraft or drones, whether foreign or domestic. A smaller subset examines the possibility of non-terrestrial origins, not in a sensationalized sense, but as a hypothesis consistent with observed data that resists conventional explanation. The careful, systematic evaluation of these possibilities demonstrates a mature approach, one that prioritizes evidence and critical thinking while allowing space for contemplation of extraordinary phenomena. Government acknowledgement in recent years has added further credibility. The U.S. Department of Defense has confirmed the existence of programs dedicated to the identification of unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs, releasing videos captured by military pilots showing objects performing maneuvers inconsistent with known technology. These disclosures, though limited, reflect a shift from skepticism and secrecy toward cautious transparency. The government emphasizes that the primary objective is national security, yet the revelations also provide the public with access to phenomena previously confined to classified archives. For listeners, the calm presentation of these facts encourages reflection rather than fear, highlighting the balance between observation, interpretation, and mystery. Another dimension of modern investigation involves cross-disciplinary collaboration. Physicists, engineers, psychologists, and historians work together to analyze reports and data. Physicists may study the aerodynamic possibilities of reported maneuvers. Engineers examine materials or propulsion hypotheses. Psychologists evaluate perception, memory, and witness reliability. Historians contextualize patterns and cultural influences over decades. For the listener, blending intrigue with serenity and maintaining a bedtime-friendly pace that allows curiosity to flourish gently. The persistence of unexplained phenomena invites reflection on the limits of human knowledge. Across decades, investigators, analysts, and scientists have encountered reports that resist reduction to conventional causes. The consistency, complexity, and credibility of these reports suggest that the unknown persists not because of oversight but because reality may extend beyond our current understanding. For a listener at night, this realization is not alarming. It is comforting, an invitation to contemplate the vastness of the skies, the meticulous work of those who observe, and the enduring mysteries that quietly hover just beyond the edges of comprehension. As your mind drifts further into this serene narrative, imagine yourself stepping quietly alongside modern investigators, reviewing radar tracks, pilot reports, and satellite imagery. Sense the care with which data is recorded, the patience with which anomalies are analyzed, and the quiet persistence of curiosity that drives inquiry. Picture the skies as a vast canvas of possibility, dotted with fleeting lights, unusual shapes, and phenomena that have intrigued humanity for decades. This calm exploration bridges history and the present, blending meticulous observation, credible documentation, and gentle wonder into a tapestry that invites both reflection and rest. Modern investigations, therefore, continue the legacy of the whispered files. They combine the precision of scientific study with the openness required to engage with mysteries that endure. They respect the credibility of witnesses, the consistency of patterns, and the subtle complexity of phenomena that remain unexplained. For the listener, this journey into the present underscores the calm, contemplative nature of inquiry. The unknown is not a source of fear, but an opportunity to observe, wonder, and reflect peacefully, allowing the mind to wander gently through the skies and into the quiet mysteries that continue to endure. As we near the end of our journey through the whispered files of CIA UFO experiments, it is time to pause and reflect. Beyond the reports, radar readings, and eyewitness accounts lies a deeper story of human curiosity and wonder. Across decades, pilots, radar operators, and civilians observed lights, shapes, and movements in the sky that defied easy explanation. Analysts meticulously documented these events, balancing skepticism with careful inquiry, while culture preserved their intrigue through films, literature, and art. One of the most striking lessons is the persistence of mystery. Even with modern technology and rigorous investigation, some phenomena remain unexplained, hinting at the limits of our understanding and the vastness of the skies. This persistence is not alarming. Rather, it invites calm contemplation, encouraging us to appreciate the unknown as part of the human experience. Equally important is the balance between observation and imagination. Witnesses and analysts alike approached these phenomena with care, ensuring that curiosity did not become panic and wonder did not become speculation. Cultural interpretations, from novels to films, allowed these mysteries to flourish, engaging the imagination while respecting the credibility of real-world reports. For the listener, this reflection offers serenity. The unknown is not a threat but a companion, inviting quiet exploration and gentle curiosity. The whispered files remind us that mystery endures, that careful observation matters, and that wonder can exist peacefully alongside reason. As you drift into rest, allow your mind to travel across the skies of decades past, observing, contemplating, and embracing the quiet fascination that the unknown can bring. As we reach the final chapter of our journey through the whispered files of CIA UFO experiments, it is time to reflect quietly on what these decades of observation reveal. Beyond reports, radar readings, and eyewitness accounts lies a deeper story of human curiosity, patience, and wonder. Pilots, analysts, and civilians documented events with care, while researchers, historians, and cultural storytellers preserved the sense of mystery without alarm. Even today, modern investigations continue this tradition, using advanced technology to observe phenomena that defy conventional explanation. The consistency of these reports across time and geography reminds us that some mysteries persist, not to frighten, but to invite contemplation. They offer a space for calm curiosity, encouraging reflection on the limits of our understanding and the vast possibilities of the universe. As you drift toward sleep, imagine the quiet skies, filled with elusive lights and gentle movements, observed, recorded, and pondered over decades. These mysteries become companions, offering both intrigue and serenity. The journey through these whispered files teaches us that wonder and observation can coexist peacefully, and that the unknown is not something to fear, but a gentle invitation to explore, imagine, and rest within its calm embrace.